Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a universal human reality, something literally every single one of us experiences: pain, hardship, and loss. We're going to dive right into the source material of humanity's major Abrahamic faiths. We really want to understand exactly how they make sense of suffering and, crucially, how billions of people actually use these frameworks to find real, tangible healing. Okay, so let's set the stakes here. If we are looking at faiths that believe in an all-powerful, entirely benevolent creator, we immediately crash headfirst into the classic problem of evil. Basically, if God is so good and so powerful, why do bad things happen to us? Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with 1, the problem of suffering. Then look at 2, Judaism, justice and mystery. 3, Christianity, the redemptive cross. 4, Islam, the divine test. And finally, 5, taking refuge in healing. Section 1, the problem of suffering. The absolute crucial starting point for us is understanding the concept of theodicy. That's the formal theological term for how these traditions attempt to reconcile a good, benevolent creator with a hurting, broken world. And listen, this is not just some dusty, abstract academic debate. As we're going to see, theodicy actively shapes how believers find meaning in their daily trials and how they actually survive tragedy. Section 2, Judaism, justice, and mystery. In Judaism, the Torah initially presents this clear framework of covenantal justice. Essentially, obedience to God brings blessings and disobedience brings suffering. Pretty straightforward, right? But wait, what about innocent suffering? Well, that profound mystery is explored in the book of Job, where a perfectly righteous man loses absolutely everything. The ultimate takeaway there isn't some tidy little explanation, but rather a profound human humility in the face of God's vast mysteries. And to reconcile the raw injustices we see in this lifetime, Jewish tradition points to Olam Haba, or the world to come, where ultimate divine justice is finally and perfectly fulfilled. To really see how this works in practice, look no further than this incredible Talmudic tale of the 2nd century sage, Rabbi Akiva. The guy was refused lodging in a town, so he was forced to camp outside in the dark. Overnight, he loses his donkey, his rooster, and his lamp. Just a terrible night. But despite all this, he maintains his ultimate trust, literally saying, everything God does is for the best. Well, by morning, he discovers marauders had actually attacked that town. His seemingly terrible misfortunes, being stuck outside, having no noisy animals, having no light to give away his position, literally saved his life. It's just a fantastic narrative about trusting a hidden, benevolent plan. Section 3, Christianity, the redemptive cross. Historically, Christian theology approaches this whole puzzle through 2 really distinct lenses. On one side, you have the Augustinian approach, named after St. Augustine. He argued that God didn't actually create evil. Instead, evil is just a privation, like an absence of good, that resulted entirely from the misuse of human free will. God respects our freedom so much that he lets us choose, even when it leads to pain. On the flip side, we have the Irenaean approach. This one suggests humanity was created in an immature state, so the suffering in the world acts as this necessary veil of soul-making. Think of it almost like a spiritual gym, where humans face hardships to develop crucial virtues like courage, compassion, and true resilience. Now, Christianity proclaims something entirely unique here. It teaches that God didn't just sit back as a distant observer to our misery. He personally entered right into it through the incarnation of Jesus Christ. By enduring the crucifixion, God essentially took what was viewed as the greatest, most unjust evil imaginable and transformed it into the greatest good, redemptive salvation. This is a massive coping mechanism for believers. It allows them to unite their own personal pain with Christ, resting in the belief that God deeply understands and actually shares in their suffering. Section 4, Islam, the divine test. Islam distills suffering into some highly purposeful, very practical categories. First up is ibtila. This is the core concept that earthly life is explicitly designed as a temporary test of your faith and character. Second, suffering acts as expiation. Islamic tradition teaches that enduring even something as small as the prick of a thorn purifies a believer of their sins. Third is hikmah, or divine wisdom, which is trusting that God's plan often averts a much greater unseen harm. And the required response to all of this? Sabr. That means cultivating a profound, active patience and reliance on God, knowing with absolute certainty that he does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. Actually, just like that story of Rabbi Akiva we talked about earlier, this Quranic narrative brilliantly shows how divine providence works through apparent hardships to achieve a much greater good. In Surah 18, Moses travels with this mysterious, righteous servant named Khidr, and Khidr does things that just seem awful to Moses, like deliberately damaging a perfectly good boat. But later on, Khidr reveals the hidden divine wisdom. Damaging that boat actually saved it from being confiscated by a tyrannical pirate king. It's this powerful reminder that our human understanding is super limited, and God's plan has a far-reaching wisdom we just can't immediately see. Section 5. Taking refuge and healing. Now, when we put these faiths side by side like this, it's amazing. We see these profound shared threads right alongside their beautiful, distinct approaches. While Judaism emphasizes action and covenantal trust, Christianity focuses heavily on the redemptive suffering of the Incarnation, and Islam centers right on the divine test. But if you look over at that right column, they all share a rock-solid belief in human free will, ultimate divine justice, and the absolute assurance that all this pain will be rectified in the afterlife. So how do believers practically heal on a Tuesday afternoon when things go wrong? Well, let's look at a concept known in Islamic theology as Isti'adha. This isn't just some rigid religious ritual, it's a deeply instinctive human behavior. When we face modern anxieties, dangers, or even just our own toxic thoughts, we naturally want to seek a safe space. Isti'adha is the psychological and spiritual act of actively seeking that ultimate refuge and peace in a superior power, specifically God. And just to underscore how absolutely critical this psychological shielding is, our sources point out that the specific concept of taking refuge is mentioned a staggering 17 times in the Quran. 17 times. That tells us this is an everyday, absolutely vital practice for maintaining mental and spiritual resilience. Check out how a simple, everyday phrase like Basmala, which means in the name of God, serves as a highly effective psychological tool. Before starting any big task, saying this grounds a racing mind and completely purifies your intent. It acts like a literal spiritual shield against anxiety and negative influences. It gives you this immediate sense of divine companionship, reminding you that you aren't facing this trial alone. And ultimately, it brings a sense of completion and blessing, offering profound emotional focus right in the middle of the chaos. Ultimately, it all comes back around to this incredibly unifying statement. It originally comes from a Rabbi Akiva, but honestly, it echoes across all these traditions. All that God does, he does for the good. It beautifully bridges the heavy academic theology with real-world, gritty emotional survival. It's the ultimate statement of trust, the kind of trust that transforms suffering from just senseless, random pain into a journey of deep meaning. I want to leave you with a final provocative thought today. We've just seen how these ancient, massive traditions frame suffering as a tool for growth, a test of patience, or a pathway to ultimate justice. So, how do you process your own personal trials? Think about it. Does the way you frame your hardships actually help you heal, or is it holding you back? Thank you so much for joining me for The Explainer today. Keep questioning and keep learning.